We're getting to the end of 2 very full days, and so all I really want to do is tell you a story. Why a story? Well, because it turns out that everything's about stories, but not just stories in the way you're probably thinking right now. I'm not talking about the stories we tell in our promotional and advertising work. I was born and brought up in Zimbabwe, in Southern Africa, and the story I have in my own head, in my own mind, is of an idyllic childhood. Playing sport in the backyard with my older brother Tony and my younger brother Simon. Days spent exploring the African wildlife in the bush that just stretched forever from the bottom of our garden. But the thing is, in the background to all this was the grim reality of the Rhodesian Civil War. Now, that war raged from the time I was 5 until the time I was 20. I learned to fire a rifle and a pistol at the age of 12. But that war was really all we knew. I grew up with it. I didn't know anything different. And still to this day, the story in my head is of an idyllic childhood. Now, obviously, as you can tell, that story affected me in ways that you can imagine, you know. But the thing is, stories actually affect us in ways that we don't fully recognize yet. Neuroscience research is actually showing us now that we create our own concepts of the world based on the stories we tell ourselves in our heads, that we ingrain in our minds, often subconsciously as we go through life. So in any given situation, we respond, we think, and we behave, and we act according to the stories that we draw out of our minds that have been ingrained there over time. The first thing the elephant child saw was the wise old Chacma baboon sitting on a tree stump in the sun.
"Excuse me," she said most politely, "but would you happen to have seen a crocodile in these promiscuous parts?"
Well, the old baboon looked at her with his wise old head on one side, and he said, "The crocodile is nowhere, and he's everywhere. If you look for him, you can't see him. But he can see you. Tell me, elephant child, why do you want to find the crocodile?"
"I want to know what he has for dinner."
"Oh, I see. You want knowledge. You want to stretch your mind. That is very good, because if you can stretch your mind, you can stretch your whole world." Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. actually once said, "A mind that's been stretched by a new experience can never return to its old dimensions." It's just sad that so often it takes extreme situations to force us to stretch our mind, to look at how we can change and do things better. And that's what I experienced through my brother Tony's death and through my experience in the military, was a forced stretching. So I really suggest that we should all be creating work environments in which our employees can safely stretch their minds without going through too much pain. "Follow the banks of the river," said the baboon, "and you will find an answer to your new courteous question." So the elephant child set off again, and she hadn't gone very far when she trod on a log lying half in and half out of the water. Well, she thought it was a log, but then it grunted, and it winked one eye in a slow, sliding sort of way.
"Excuse me," said the elephant child, stepping back off the log, "but would you happen to have seen a crocodile in these promiscuous parts? I want to know what he has for dinner."
Then the log winked its other eye, and it swirled its tail a bit in the great grey, green, greasy water. "Oh yeah," it said. "Come closer, little one, and I'll whisper it to you." So the question is, what stories are you and your employees, your staff, your co-workers, what stories do you have in your minds about your organization? Are they positive or are they negative? Because that's what you're spreading, perhaps unconsciously, but that's what you're spreading to your customers.